A temporary fence all the way. If my ancestors are African, as I believe they are. So that's my new door. And when I got up in November last year and say, I'm not finishing the last year of my H1B. I'm surrounded by shrub and trees, right? So my nearest neighbor. Morning, Michelle here again. I did 2 previous videos, mainly just showing the land I purchased in Ghana. For those persons who watched the previous videos, you would notice the changes in the property. There are some changes, like the fencing wasn't in the first one. I think the fencing, well, temporary fencing. One of the things that's interesting is I stand in my backyard and I see a group of village women just passing straight through the back. And when I started building the temporary fence, I had like bamboos. And one of the young ladies, she just passed through the bamboo. Good morning. Right on through my backyard. Yes, interesting. The unnerving part is the men do it as well. And my temporary shower is in my backyard. So imagine getting ready to strip and you look up to see a man just strolling past through your backyard. But that's not the focus of this video. I already shared that I recently moved to Ghana. I'm Jamaican. I left Jamaica in 2019 to pursue the experience of being an international teacher. Right? So I taught in North Carolina for 4 years through COVID. And then I switched to an H1B visa into Georgia. While I was a high school teacher in Jamaica, and I taught elementary and primary as well. But most of my years were spent teaching high school. When I came to the US, I was in a middle school, and in the last 2 years before I came to Ghana, I was in elementary school. All of them interesting experiences. I love the challenges of learning new things, finding new ways to teach and so on. But of course, I know a lot of persons want to go to the US. I was iffy. I wanted the experience, the teaching experience, but I wasn't sure of other aspects. People get into trouble so easily over there. I know racism exists and discrimination exists everywhere in the world, but I was going to the US, so that was my focus, right? So, being a child of God, though, I think that experience and the fear, people look at me and see me jumping from Jamaica into the US and then to Ghana. There are a number of friends who say I'm brave and so on, but there is always a bit of fear in changes. And I experienced my own fears. My major fear was with some of the stories you hear, you're driving on the road and people do certain things, or you make simple mistakes and you end up in jail, or end up as a focus of the police, which is something I definitely don't want. But I had a consistent fervent prayer when I decided to go. So I turned everything over to the Most High, definitely, and asked Him to guide my steps. And I think I became closer to God in those years because of the fear of not being close to Him. I don't know if you understand that. But I'm not here either to talk about my spiritual walk. That will be intermixed with if I continue with this. I'm here because quite a number of persons are, say I've inspired them. I don't mind inspiring people. I don't mind encouraging people either to push the limits of your potential, what you perceive your potential to be. And all decisions I've made to this point, I've thought of my kids. I have 2 daughters and a granddaughter. And they made the move with me in the US. And when I got up in November last year and say, I'm not finishing the last year of my H1B. I'm not going to be finding thousands of dollars to get a green card. I don't want to be in the US that much. So we're not staying here. And I'm blessed by them, They were ready, ready. Whatever, wherever I wanted to go, they were ready. My best friend suggested Ghana, and initially I was just thinking of just teaching somewhere else. So when I saw like what the school situation is like, I wasn't too enthused. Worst, I was afraid of scamming. You don't know who to reach out to and all of that. So that's a story for another day, really. I made a decision in November not to stay in the US. Start of New Zealand first, but the process was mind-boggling. I lost some cash there because I started the process. But then I thought again of history, my history, ancestry history, Africa. My brother had been plaguing me for years about returning to the motherland and so on. So I took another look at my life and serving, and I figure if teaching is a call and a ministry, I could serve in Africa just as I could serve anywhere else. And if my ancestors are African, as I believe they are, that's the best place to start serving, really serving, no matter what the conditions are. I met a lady through a friend. She was a friend of this lady. She introduced us via the phone, and we hit it off. And she actually paved the way for me to be here. She took on a whole lot of things. I see a number of persons on YouTube now, and they're sharing their experiences, but they're also monetizing their experience. I don't have a problem monetizing an experience. If you share your experience as I am doing, and you get enough persons interested to come along and view, that's fine. But we're actually charging people to do certain things. It's not a responsibility. I'll check for information, but it's not a responsibility I want in terms of being paid. I'm kept very busy here. I'm going to switch to the land and the progress with the garden in a bit, because I don't want to be talking. I can talk, but this is not about talking, right? There was a lot of questions as to who you can reach out to, who is not going to charge you exorbitant fees for consultancy and all of that. So this lady was a godsend and a blessing, and she did everything. She showed me the land via the phone, sent the money to her, she purchased it, told her exactly what I wanted. Between her and her husband, they built, started this house. I'm standing actually in front of my new door. I'm going to show you my new door. I bought a door before this one. The carpenter realized that the frame that was put up by a mason was not measured. So the top was wider than the bottom. And instead of letting it go and making adjustments or getting me to get a mason to make adjustments, he massacred my door to fit into the ill-measured frame. Yeah, so that was a disaster. That affected even the lock, everything. So eventually the door just kept deteriorating till eventually it locked sometimes it didn't lock, sometimes you had to slam it, sometimes it just open. So it was a thing. So I had to switch and get another mason who is doing very well with the improvements I'm making. He hid everything out, and I purchased this door. They call it a Chinese door. Some of them I hear come from Turkey. So that's my new door. Of course, the plastic can be taken off, but I'm not going to be taking off the plastic right now, because there's, as you can see, there are a whole lot of stuff left to be done. It's one mason. I'm taking it slowly. I don't like crowds here because we live here. So safety is a very, very real concern, especially if, as you can see, I'm surrounded by shrub and trees, right? So my nearest neighbor is there. She'll be coming soon. She started building before me, but nobody's living there now. So there's nobody to shout out to, right? So it's just me and my daughter. So safety is a concern. So you can't have men, a whole lot of young men traipsing through the house and so on. Because we live in. So that's my door. I started the temporary fence, as I said, right? I got my posts put up. For those persons who watched the previous one, they would say I had a wooden thing here. Of course, the joke with that is after I was talking about the temporary thing, we had already purchased the posts, but I had not put them up yet. And they, no, I actually had put them up. I put them up like the Tuesday or Wednesday of that week. Put the cement to them, hoping for them to stay strong. No, I hadn't strung the lines yet because I wanted them to dry. I post the foundation to dry. And we got up and washed. I think it was a Thursday or Friday morning. It was a Thursday morning, like 2 days after we put this up. And after we put on the last, I think 4 or 5 lines on the wooden one, the temporary one, both wood just collapsed in on each other with all the clothes on it. So that went, right? So, of course, we had to leave for work. So my younger daughter was the one, with the help of one of the masons, who strung the line on the post, praying that everything was okay with it because the weather was not getting a lot of sun, right? So, but it has held. I may adjust the lines eventually, but it's working. So she had to re-rinse and hang, right? But this is my younger daughter showed this callaloo. I call it a callaloo tree. So I have callaloo for a long while. Some people just say greens, callaloo. They have a different name for it here in Ghana. I have tomato plants in this space. Scallion or green onions, wherever you are, whatever you call them. I throw all my waste here, banana peels, eggshells, lime peel, all of that. Spinach, I got spinach recently. The suckers, right? And every time I eat pine, I bury the head. But I also have suckers, pine suckers, right? So these are the pine suckers that I planted. Cane over there. I have a pear tree. I recently got this ackee tree, and I have potatoes blooming, right? The weird thing is there are so many things popping up out of the ground. I'm trying not to kill anything that I need, but I don't always know them when they're just coming up. This is another potato plant. Pumpkin in there. Melon is over there with tomatoes. And of course more pine. So my garden has improved a whole lot. Back of my yard now has a temporary fence all the way down across the back. I'm now working on the pit. So after the pit casts, I will have a working bathroom as soon as I put in my fixtures, right? But let me see if I can give a long view. So this is the backyard, right? The windows were always here. Well, not always, they have been improved. The windows have been dressed and things. From a view of the inside, I've started creating, like a side of my house garden. And I want to do the temporary fencing all the way across to my post that is right up there. Yesterday I spent the day putting up temporary posts, bamboo at the front, right? So this is the front. I got my coconut tree from the persons who sold the property. So that is one. And those are the posts that I put up yesterday. So I put up about 12 posts. Yeah, I've actually bought my own, and I did a whole lot of weeding here. You will see most of this cleared. Right? So that's the front of the property. But it's a good enough space. A lot of space for me anyway. And that's the house in my water tank. So that's one side of the house. These plants, some people know it as susumba. In Jamaica we call it susumba. Here different countries call it different names with the little green things on it. I saw a girl on TikTok talking about the benefits of it. But I picked some of the leaves, so I don't know if I misunderstood what she was saying, because I got the impression she was saying the leaves were good for a number of things. But we picked some leaves. I don't know if they're old, but they had, thorns on the actual leaves. I can't imagine eating that and getting stuck in the mouth with those things. So all those who know about Ghana, the borehole, mine isn't totally set up, but that's where we pump the water from to fill the tank. And look at that view. I know my view is gonna change eventually when more houses start getting, but the atmosphere here is peaceful, and when you're doing things on the property, it makes you feel you're a part of something bigger. When I'm working with the kids, I've moved from having 30, anywhere between 20 odd. I had up to sometimes when I was in North Carolina, 30, even 36 students. In Georgia, I don't think I've ever had beyond 26. And the smallest group was about 12 ESP students. I have 4 students currently. Taught grade 3 when I got here in May up to when school let out. And now I am going to be getting them in grade 4. This is the other ackee tree. I'm trying to figure out if whatever is eating them or was on them is something that's going to be dangerous to other plants. But this is the second ackee tree. Okra, those persons who know okra, I'm realizing okra grow wild just as the susumba goes wild here. I'm slowly trying to tear up these plants, bush, so that it doesn't get bushier. Yeah, this is okra, and what I used to recognize the plant was the bloom, because I'm familiar with the bloom. I grew things in Jamaica just as I'm doing here. Yeah, so I saw the bloom. I don't actually see any okra on it yet. And here's another one. And after I identify it, I look all over. Here's the bloom. The bloom is so pretty. This is the okra plant bloom. When it starts bloom, it gives you this flower. And this one in here, you see, another one. So once I identified where they are, I'm leaving them and watching them to see if I could get okra from them. Yeah, there's my other palm tree. This is the side of the property now. And the pit is on this side. Alright, so the guys are working on the pit. And this is the side of the house with the bathroom, right? So that's the thing for the toilet. And that's I'll soon show you my china door at the front. Well, a closer view. Alright. So now I can enter through front and back, which I couldn't do before. And that's the view on the other side of the back of the house. These videos tend to go long, with you walking and talking. There's a friend here who came. She has been here for 2 years and she's building. She asks a lot of questions. In fact, she's the one who encouraged me to go YouTube and talk about this. Questions will help, keep me focused on what interests others. The journey from Jamaica to here has a lot of different events and experiences. I know there are persons who don't like changes, and I know that they will likely fear moving from wherever they are to somewhere so far and unknown. I don't have a problem answering questions regarding that. I know there are the rude persons as well. Um, I'm not a YouTube person. I don't spend a lot of time on the different social medias. I just don't have the time. But I've looked at, watched enough, spoke to my daughters enough to realize that once you put yourself out there, you expose yourself to all sorts of negativity. Positives too, yes, but a whole lot of negativity. And sometimes it's obvious that people are projecting. And I sympathize with that. And it's fine. Just understand that the target group is persons who are interested in this sort of thing. If you're not that person, it's okay to not tune in. If I can interest persons or encourage persons who want to come to Ghana, it doesn't even have to be Ghana. It can be any other African countries that a number of persons seem to be yearning to go. And I know there are many things to take into consideration. The travel, financial part, a lot of persons don't want to move because of finances. I don't have any savings. I've never had savings. So I can speak definitely to how I did it financially as well. So I encourage questions on any other topics that will help others to decide where they want to take their lives. Alright, so one final thing, and this will be the end of this video. The China door at the front of the house. Oh, I put up a net to help with the flies. The only thing I don't like about it is the gold. I'm not a bling bling person. But what makes these doors, I love wood, I love natural things. But what made these doors more prudent, when they lock, you turn the key twice, and it gives 3 metal prongs. That way you give metal prongs upward and downward into the floor. It comes with a frame which is metal, and it's totally concreted into the wall, so it wouldn't be an easy thing for anybody to get in it, even if they break off the lock. So it's more secure. So this is the front room, just a peep. Rendered recently. Those are the windows for the front, one at the front, one at the back for now. This room was recently rendered, and the tiling that was started was not impressed. So if this is how they're gonna tile, I figured I could do the tiling myself. So I'm actually taking the money that I was gonna pay the guy to tile this room, and I took it to buy a tile cooker. But that's another story for another day. This is it, and this is the closet. There's a problem with mold. They rust through my roof. So the roof, I think there's a leak somewhere out there, so it's causing mold on the ceiling. And I can see most of the concentration is on that far piece of board. It looks terrible. You probably can't see, but it does look terrible. So we'll view again.